that the Wokes are getting they're getting another swing in the fight. The Wokes have had a bad year or two.
The Wokes have had a bad
The
year.
Wokes have had a bad year or two, and now this like bear thing, people are like, oh, like I never thought of that. How
It's so
dangerous men can be.
it's
I'm
so fucking
like, yes, I also lived through the year 2014, so I'm glad the Wokes are getting a temporary W.
so on that note,
Yeah.
welcome back everybody. I sent you
Yes, I'm
the
on it.
thing.
I'm on it. Seeing these glorious faces. It's
It's been
been several minutes.
it's been 1 week since you looked at me.
You know, it's funny when you set up. So for the millions of fans at home, um, and we organize our notes, which Javi does a beautiful job of, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
There's towards the bottom. There's a screenshot of the tomato review. And he had just replaced. So he copies a doc and then puts in the proper things for the current movie. But the last one had like a 12, like 36 score. And I was like, people hated this movie that bad? I don't believe it. And now I see the current one. I'm like, this makes much more sense.
Take a guess at what the last one was. It was on the document of a movie that we talked about with
Uh,
a 12%.
uh, not Aquaman.
No,
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 sooner,
way more recent than that.
sooner than that.
Was, I believe, right around the time of spring break.
Yeah,
Which goes to show how forgettable that fucking movie was.
I don't
It's
remember.
Madam Web.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
So, all right. So we are going to primarily be talking about Abigail today.
Yeah.
But it has been a fat fucking minute. I'm pretty sure our last episode we recorded was Avatar.
Yeah.
That was maybe early March at best.
Well, it also goes to show you for people who are perpetual children like Javi and I, and what I mean by that is we still live on the school calendar as our
Ooh.
livelihood. It shows you how short the break between spring break and summer break is, but also how simultaneously like long it
Long
is.
it is. Yeah,
Because
for
it feels
sure.
like a long time ago, but it also doesn't feel like a long time ago.
It arguably is a very long time ago.
Yeah.
Like to say something happened 2 months ago
Yeah.
is for sure a long time.
Yeah.
The biggest problem though is like it just feels so like packed.
Yes.
We've had 3 different tests
Mm-hmm.
in that amount of time. I think my microphone is a little too far from my face. I'm gonna put it a little closer. Ooh, that sounds so much better.
Put it in your face.
Put it in my face.
Yeah.
Yours might be a little quiet too, so I don't know.
Quiet, quiet, quiet. Come, microphone.
Come, microphone, come.
Come to the mouth.
We've had so many tests. We've had like a bunch of different like observations. Like I did both of my SLOs in the same amount of like time.
I coached a whole sport.
Carlos coaching.
Yeah.
Like he's fallen into the
Yeah.
cycle
The cycle of money.
of money.
Of money.
Um, we have watched movies. We just haven't had time.
Talk about them.
We talk about them. Thano is still busy planning wedding.
Well, I'm planning wedding. I'm celebrating Easter this weekend.
Yep,
Yes.
real Easter.
Real. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you for admitting it.
I have to be an ally to my friend here.
Yes.
Um, so it has been very busy. Is there anything that you want to touch on that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about? I know I have seen some great shit
Yeah.
recently. The first Omen was fantastic.
Yeah. You've seen more great shit than me. Today I watched all of because it's May the 4th. I'm not gonna say the line,
You
but
fucking
it
nerd.
is May the 4th. I watched all of Tales of the Empire, the new like animated short series. It was quite good. I say props to Tales of the Empire.
Very good.
Yes.
So we both saw Immaculate.
We both saw Immaculate.
You know, the more I think about it, the more I like it.
All I want to say about Immaculate is that it does commit the error of either purposely or not purposely getting the definition of what the Immaculate Conception is wrong.
Sure. But let's be honest, most people,
Well, that's
most
fine.
people
That's fine.
don't think that much through.
They just wanted to see little baby Jesus beaten to death with a rock.
Hey man.
Here's what I'll say. And this friend has listened to this podcast, so he might hear this. So
Huh?
Elijah, I apologize for the dishonor I'm going to share on your mother.
Oh.
My friend's mom wrote a book, was writing a book about how like people were trying to clone Jesus, and then they accidentally like cloned Judas or something.
Oh.
I don't know. I remember hearing about this concept as a kid.
That'd be an interesting concept for a movie.
Well, so hold on. I remember hearing about this concept as a kid. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. I'm
Damn.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's kind of the plot of Immaculate. Minus the
Yeah.
Judas, but
Yeah.
like they are trying to clone Jesus DNA on the thing.
I get it.
They did what they could with the concept.
They did what they
I will
could.
say they ran as far as their legs could take them.
That came out. Not Immaculate came out, which was the first Omen, which again is really good.
Yeah.
As someone who does not have a lot of love for like the Omen, either the original or the
Or the
one
remake.
from 2006.
It's all for you,
It's all for you,
Damien.
Damien. This was surprisingly good. It was weirdly violent. It has a scene
He said
that
the Omen is weirdly violent.
no, like so it's very violent,
Yeah.
but in like weird ways.
Uh,
There's a shot that I was watching this movie and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen anything as fucking disgusting as this.
yeah.
It's like hands coming out of a woman in a
Cool.
weird way.
There you go.
Um, I saw stop motion. Civil War has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Highly recommend for some people who are not smooth in the brain.
Yes.
It does have some really unfortunate bad AI issues,
Mm.
primarily in the marketing. Godzilla X Kong came out.
That's it. Let's came out.
That was a fucking blast.
Me
Found no
too.
sleepy time through half of it.
Dude, I was so fucking sleepy. It was
I think
beautiful colors though.
I think the days of Thano watching movies at 10 p.m.
No, honestly, all it was because I used to fall asleep during movies a lot. Honestly, it's just straight up this year, and it'll probably happen again, either when I start my PhD or start having kids. But like, there was a time when I first got into teaching that I was always falling asleep at movies at late. Then that stopped. It's purely because coaching, wedding, Lent.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I'm gonna pause for a second. And
Yes,
all right, so we're back.
we're back.
We're back. Nothing tragic happened,
Yep,
thankfully.
yep.
We were talking about movies that we've seen or the other things. I just want to say this has been a solid year, and I feel like April alone,
Has
like,
been a great month.
has been solid.
Yeah.
And we still have quite a few things coming out in May.
Hmm.
We got Planet of the Apes coming up. Fall Guy just came out this weekend, and that was really good. Um, Boy Kills World was very good for action. It's a little lacking in story, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Anything you want to shout out?
I haven't I haven't seen that much other than like Shogun's happening,
Shogun was good.
Fallout's happening.
Have you finished Fallout?
Haven't finished either one.
Oh,
But they're both solid. People know much more about them than I do. So yay for media is all
yay
I'll
for
say.
media.
But today's episode is about one of the other wins of this month,
It
a
is.
movie that we were both excited for.
We were both very excited for, I think, for different reasons.
Different reason. I'll say the movie Megan ran, so this movie could also jog.
Yeah. Okay, I will say, I genuinely did like this movie
I like this
quite a
movie a lot.
lot. Um, there were times where I was like, I wish it had gone a little harder in some things.
Yeah.
Man, it's picking up out there. It's looking very stormy out there.
We are entering the age of the climate change where we're just going to be having storms more often.
Sporadically.
Yep.
But yeah. So we're talking about Abigail, which is a movie that, as far as marketing goes, they did the right thing to draw eyes.
Yes.
I think at the expense of the movie.
This is a movie that will flourish on DVD. And what I mean, I don't mean like sales, because like, that market is just what it is.
Hmm.
But I mean the user watching experience of this movie is gonna be at its prime when you go to a friend's house and they say,
Okay,
you
there's
heard
no.
of this shit?
Nope.
Nah, I.
No action. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's entirely reliant on how much you know going in.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Anyway, um, it just it does suffer a bit because you know going in the main like quote
Twist.
unquote twist of the movie, which is that the little girl is a vampire.
And I was surprised the extent to which the plot of this movie plays it as a twist.
Yeah, I mean,
Because that was the selling point. Like I saw the trailer, and I was like, little girl vampire, like locking people in a house, dope. I'm ready to see it.
yeah,
And I thought, um, I didn't realize which one's the fucking dramatic or situational irony when the characters don't know something that you know.
yeah,
Right, whatever one it is. I didn't just teach this year, so that's fine. But anyway, whatever one, like I didn't realize the movie would play up the mystery of like what was going on
yeah.
as much as it does.
So I will say, I think the second time through that initial part, like quote unquote act one
Yeah.
of like them trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, it did feel a lot shorter. I think in the grand scheme of the movie, which is not terribly long, only an hour and 50 minutes,
Yeah.
I think it's maybe like a solid half hour.
That's been a solid dub for 2024 as well. There have been some really good short movies.
Appropriately length movies
Yes.
for sure. And I think, listen, if you go into this movie knowing that there's a little Valerie and the Vampire Girl,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to like affect your enjoyment of the overall movie because there's still enough in there to like still surprise you.
Yes.
Whether it be some of the effects, some of the kills, some of the jokes,
The ending and
the
how it's played
ending.
out. Yep.
Exactly. So I think there's enough still in here that aside the twist, it still works.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem with some movies where once you know the twist,
Right. Then it's
then
not as fun.
whatever.
I think though, if the integrity of the twist is preserved, and someone really walks into this movie blind, it takes a good slash great movie and then could turn it into like an
Yeah.
amazing movie.
There is a way to market this movie where
Yeah.
you still lean into the possibility that there is something supernatural,
Hmm.
but you completely deviate from it being the girl.
Yeah.
Where you can say like, because there is a talking point in the movie where they're like, oh, it could be the hitman
Yeah.
from the father's
Valdez.
family,
Right.
Valdez. He's this like crazy person, and you could lean into that
Mhm.
by saying, is Valdez the supernatural entity happening here?
Yeah, but then you can really
And
call it
then
Abigail. You'd have to change the
exactly, you would have to change the
change the
title.
title. Yeah.
So, but which you could. I mean, the movie Ready or Not works. It doesn't have to have the title
Ready or not.
of Ready or Not. You can take whatever,
Right.
right? So like maybe you do have you lose that issue with the title of the movie, but I mean I feel like whatever. Movies change titles all the time.
I think I was just surprised at how many. Because after we watch movies, I pretty much go watch big three reviewers, right,
Sure.
that we follow, and then I was surprised that all three of them made like the marketing of this movie a central point of their critique. And
Yeah.
I agree, and I think I was more surprised because like I walked out of the movie having this thought of like if I didn't know that going into it that would just made the movie much more crazy.
For sure.
And I was like, I thought that was just gonna be a thought that I was one of the few people who had. I didn't realize it would be such a majority like opinion.
Yeah.
But if that's the biggest critique of this movie, then
Which
props to them.
I do feel like that is the biggest critique that I've seen
Yeah.
so far for this movie. Because I mean everything else is really good. I think all the actors do a really good job. Like your main your main cast is tiny, tiny.
Yeah,
We have Melissa Barrera playing Joey, Dan Stevens, I'm sorry, Dan Stevens is one of those actors who I think has been doing great work for too long to still be this
like
relatively like I don't want to say
CB,
unknown,
right?
but like I don't know, it's weird.
He makes he's hateable enough in this movie where you buy him as the villain, but then offers enough range where there was a point where I was like, "Ooh, is he going to be the villain of this movie?" Or
Yeah,
yeah,
because even from the beginning they do set him up as kind of like a dick,
a dick,
and you're like, there's going to be conflict between him and our main girl,
right?
right? Abigail is played by Alicia Weir, who was in the Netflix remake of Matilda
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She's great when she pulls that switch from the scared little girl
Yeah.
to like someone who's just like messing with these people. I think she does that very well.
So here's my question, because you see Abigail even from the trailer,
Hmm.
and you can't help but think of Megan. Or at least I couldn't help but think of Megan.
That's fair.
For these kinds of movies, how much time do they have where like Megan definitely punched above its weight class,
For sure.
right? This is over a year, between a year and 2 years since like that movie released. Like, is that enough time for like whoever's in charge of making this movie to be like, people love creepy dancing girls, like let's let's boogie on this shit.
I can see that. I mean, for sure, this movie. So that's the thing about horror movies.
Yeah,
Movies are usually pretty quick on the turnaround.
and the setting of this movie helps.
Yes. And so I think that you're able to add the whole thing with having like okay, so having a little girl vampire is no longer like a new thing
Yeah.
because we've had movies like Let the Right One In
Hmm.
and the American remake, or Let the Right One In is the American remake, I think, and then Let Me In
I
is
thought it
or
was.
what or the other
I
way.
think Let Me In's American. Yeah,
Yes. So you have the creepy little girl vampire. Um, I think they're always looking for a way to make it stand out, and I think having her be a ballerina feels to me like it's part of the core concept that they came up with.
well, that's what's cool about the vampire genre. If you have to find a way to make it stand out, because as we were talking about after seeing this movie, I love that now, and I do love this. It's not like a sarcastic love. I love how now a trope of a vampire movie is there has to be a scene where the characters have to be like, all right, we've read vampire shit before.
Hmm.
What stuff's going to work in this movie and what stuff's not going to work in this movie?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're setting a movie in present day,
Yeah.
you can't pretend vampires are not so ingrained in their pop culture.
On that, also, if you keep all their weaknesses as actual weaknesses, vampires are actually,
Kind of ass.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you can't come into my house.
the, let, the letter T.
Yeah. So you need something, and I think when we talked about like the last voyage of Demeter, like that movie never really specified a lot of things
Right.
about it aside from some light bad.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think there was ever any explicit shit about the vampire really spelled out. Like, yeah, we saw the dirt in the coffin and in the boxes, but they
But
never
they
addressed
don't
that he
do
needs
much.
to sleep in there.
Correct.
So like
Whereas the Netflix one that we talked
the
about
yeah, so
does.
you
Yep.
exactly. And I feel like having those like rules sets an expectation of like, okay, how fucked are our characters?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the fact that like, so our whole cast here, like, they don't really have a reason to think that this is anything out of the ordinary at first.
Besides, as out of the ordinary as a child abduction can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think it plays to the strength of how good Alicia is at playing this little girl. That like you have these people who are arguably doing a really shitty thing,
Yeah.
and you still kind of want them to make it.
Well, that's the thing. I was very impressed with the way this movie was able to make me challenge the amount my brain was saying, "Fuck these people." Like let's see them all die.
There's one person who I'm like, this dude. Let's go.
Uh,
Dean, the
Dean,
driver, played by
yeah.
Angus Cloud.
Here's the thing, I didn't. R.I.P.
R.I.P. But
I never cared for that actor,
no.
and maybe just because his character in Euphoria is just that piece of shit you went to middle school with, would always try to copy off your homework.
Yep.
But I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I don't care for that aesthetic
Yeah.
whatsoever,
For sure.
whatsoever. Yeah.
Um, I think as far as like before we get into the weeds of it, I
Hmm.
think this is it's a very fun horror movie. It leans into the horror when it needs to. It's got some genuine laughs.
It does.
Some banger gore,
Yep.
literally. So I think this is a great time. I think this is gonna be a good movie to like pop in during Halloween.
Yeah, you bust this movie out during the season.
Yeah, for sure. This is a great rotation movie. So let's talk about some of the more like detailed things.
Hmm.
So like we talked about how Abigail is really good at like just playing a really nasty bitch.
Mm.
That scene where they lock her up
Hmm.
and she's just like talking shit to them
Hmm.
and essentially calling them out on their bullshit just adds to her being the real antagonist for the most part of this movie.
Yes.
Until we get our turn later on. But then that kind of helps humanize some of these other characters.
There's I like the way they do. So to piggyback off your point, I like the way that they do the vampire mind control thing in this movie,
Yeah.
where the person the vampire is controlling really is just a vessel for the vampire, and the vampire has to the vampire is off in another room, like moving how they want, like the
Yeah,
person to
like
move,
it's almost like a literal puppet.
and that's where I think me her villainy really shine.
Yeah.
Like when she's taking control of Sammy, right? Spoilers, but the like you can tell the actress is having so much fun, and that's where the dancer slash psychopath aesthetic really intersect
Hmm.
at their best for me. Um, yeah, she sells it.
There's that
She sells it.
so we were talking about like what the whole like tropes work and what they don't work.
Hmm.
I think it's really funny once they figure out what's going on because so we do have our like people are dropping and they're trying to figure out who's doing what. First one to go is Dean.
Yeah.
Obviously, you see this dude from the very beginning. He's kind of sleazy and like a weird, almost like he doesn't know it kind of way,
Hmm.
but he's still kind of a weirdo. Um, our boy Rickles gets got. He's like the sniper of the team.
Yeah.
Kind of like low personality having people at this point because they don't get a lot to do besides that.
He's the voice
Um,
of reason. He's the one who's
he's
like,
yeah,
time to GTFO.
yeah,
Yeah.
and every scene that he's in, like he seems genuinely like he just does not want to be there at a certain point.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else is kind of shifty. I feel like Sammy, for the most part, feels like she's just kind of like just there for the vibes.
Once you get her backstory,
It makes
from
perfect
Joey, you're
sense.
like, yeah, that's exactly who this person is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when she's doing her little party trick where she's like reading them, and she's like, "Who do me?" And she's like, "Oh, well, you're a rich, spoiled brat
Yeah.
who's like essentially like just doing this because you just like
You
looking
like the
for a thrill."
thrill.
And she's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like claps about it. It's weird. One of my favorite characters is Peter, played by Kevin Durant.
You mean Lenny Elon Musk?
Yeah, he's just so fucking dumb, and
Right.
I love him. He's like a lovable idiot. Um, but when we're starting to like see all these kills happening, I think it's a good way for them to like then start making Dan Stevens feel like he could be the secondary antagonist in
Yeah.
this. And his shift in the movie, I think, is great when he finally gets that power because like he wants to be in charge. You can tell he does not want any sort of like second fiddle.
Yes.
Um, at the beginning, whenever he is challenged, he just like back talks everybody. He fucking like chokes out Peter at one point.
He's the one who I won't say is all bark no bite, but he will talk the biggest game. And then right away, like he enters the room to talk to Abigail with his like face like covered in milk with Hawkins.
which is a really funny scene.
And it is funny because he's trying to keep the gang in line, and
Yeah,
then just fucking blows it.
he just blows
Yeah,
it, and immediately the way he goes up to her with the gun,
right.
and he's like, "You fucking didn't see me. What
Yeah,
color are my eyes?" You can tell he is fucking
scared.
insane.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, then Abigail sells that shit very well, like being scared and all
Yes.
that shit. I like the mind games she plays with them, like throughout the entire movie. You can tell she's fast,
Yep.
she's strong, but she doesn't see them as a threat at all. So she's goofing around with them. Instead of like chasing them down the hallway, she's like whirling and spinning down the hallway.
I think that's where one of the things about the character. We talked about how like this movie has the task of making you sympathetic for these like pieces of shit who are abducting a child, right? I think her ability to sell both like the innocent scared girl and then the like I'm sorry what's going to happen to you and
Uh
everything
huh.
afterwards
In the same scene.
in the same scene gave me so much joy because so the first person to talk to her when she's abducted is Melissa Barrera's character Joey.
Hmm.
But I think this was initially something that like maybe bothered me a little bit about the movie where it tried to like kind of have its cake and eat it too with these characters
Uh-huh.
because she's trying to be the nice kidnapper and I'm like bitch you have no you have no leg to stand on here. And the movie is aware that she's like, yeah, like she's just fucking lying to herself right now.
Hmm.
Right. It's Abigail's reaction where at first like she's able to fake the trust that she has for her captor and then able to legitimately show like, oh, I can't wait to fuck you up.
Yeah,
It's
it's very good,
beautiful, beautiful.
very good. Um, it really does make me laugh though. How so when they fucking capture her
Yeah.
and like she gets bit, because this is after they tried all the things that would work or not work on a vampire,
Right.
right? They showed so they're trying to capture her and they're talking about like, okay, what works? Steaks, uh, process,
Yeah. Garlic.
garlic, and they're like, all
She
right,
takes a big old whiff
go.
of the
But before that,
yeah.
one of the biggest laughs for me is when they're like, all right, Sammy, go get garlic. And she comes back, she's like, got the garlic. He's like, Sammy, those are fucking onions. It's so good. But anyway, that scene where they're like disproving what does and does not work, and which leads into the chase down the stairs
Yeah.
where they're breaking, or where they're like breaking up to see if who can find her so they can poke her with the sleepy juice.
Mhm.
I think that's a one of those scenes that like could annoy you as a horror viewer because you're like, why is everybody splitting up?
That and I'll get back to the splitting up thing in a moment because I think you've got something good to say about it. There was one thing I, li- I liked and was also surprised that I liked how this movie does the power nerf for power creep on Abigail because like in most vampire movies, like the vampire will like fuck him up,
For
right?
sure.
And she does, but you still have human characters who can like wrestle this vampire to the ground,
Hmm.
right? Sleepy Juice
Sleepy juice,
works on a vampire.
which I mean,
Yeah,
it kind of makes sense in a way. I don't
and it
know,
wouldn't in any other like in many other adaptations.
but
Sleepy
I don't
Juice would
know if,
not.
if it's ever even been like a thing in a movie.
Yeah,
So that I think is very interesting going forward. Like, I wonder if anybody else was like, "Hey, remember that movie we watched about vampires? Let's try that on this vampire."
yeah,
Who knows? Um, but that does lead me to the whole thing where like, just because a trope
is there.
can be annoying, it doesn't necessarily mean that it automatically lowers the quality of the movie.
Yes.
Because then that leads us to like some very funny like miscommunication issues
Yeah.
and some very tense moments because you have that scene where Sammy's looking around and like she falls into the pool and she sees all the dead bodies.
Yeah.
And simultaneously you have that exact same scene with Peter
Yeah.
playing with the steak and gets a a splinter, and he's yelling and screaming like, "What's going on, Peter? Like, I got a splinter!"
Yeah.
And so they're making fun of him. And then when Abigail does finally show up to like fuck with him, like that, like it doesn't annoy you. It doesn't make you go,
No.
"This is what happens because you split up." It's just like it's just a situation that's happening, and it's still funny.
Our next shirt has to have some sort of pithy slogan about tropes. So I think there's a point that we return to a lot. It's not that the tropes aren't bad. It's how you use. It's like how you use the trope and the context that the trope is surrounded in. Because like you, how shall I say?
It's not the size of the trope; it's how you use it.
I love
That's not bad.
that.
Not bad.
But like the so I'll go to a scene. So you know how I talked about how initially I was a little annoyed by like the Melissa Barrera scene where she's like talking to her at first and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna pinky promise that she hurt you. I mean, you are a fucking child abductor." And
Yeah,
when you look at like when you look at the large swaths of like piece of shit people and like we just see like bad things people do. The reality is if you're willing to abduct a child, like you have to be like really far and like I think you're past the desperate end of piece of
yeah.
shit.
I think for Melissa Barrera's character, and I think that's the thing I like about. So the movie is made by Radio Silence,
Yeah.
who is a collective. They do most of their movies. They do all together.
Yeah.
It is Oren Pelly. Uh, I always blink on their names. Um, Not Oren Pelly. Sorry, Matt Bednelli and
Okay.
Tyler Gillette,
Yeah.
and they always work with Guy Busick, who
Yeah.
is the writer. The three of them are like your core group, and they always do a really good job at even without going into like full detail and giving you like full backstory. They do have a way to make your characters feel fleshed out.
Yep.
Same with your character in Ready or Not.
Hmm.
With when they introduce, I mean, you bring in them into Scream, and you have your old characters,
Yeah.
but then they bring in Sam. They bring in I keep forgetting Jen Ortega's character in that. Um, but I mean, you're able to like feel like you know these characters even though they've only been around for two movies,
Right.
right? And so in this movie, like you're able to get a feel of why Melissa Barrera is as desperate as she is. She's a recovering junkie.
Yeah.
Um, we know that from the very beginning she did not know they were kidnapping a kid,
Yeah.
and she almost feels like at that point she's like, well, I'm already
We're
in
already in here.
here, these people know me, it's probably not a good idea to back out.
Yeah.
So she just goes with it. So I can buy the whole thing of her trying to kind of tell the girl, like, hey, sorry,
Right.
I'll make sure nothing happens to you. Yeah, you're kind of already a piece of shit, so your word is not really
Yeah. Your words.
sound,
Right.
but it is what it is.
But the thing is, so like that, so that leads to the whole pinky promise thing. And at the end, that pinky promise thing
It
comes
comes
back,
back. Chekhov's pinky promise.
and you should. It's a bad idea on paper, but like it works in the movie.
It works because, but it also works because you do get a beat between her and Abigail
Hmm.
at the end of the movie, which we'll get there for sure. Um, so she gets captured. They capture Abigail, which leads us into um, they are trying to figure out what's going to happen to Sammy, who got bit in the
Hmm.
altercation. And while they're looking for a way to reset the security system of the house, which
Hmm.
has them trapped, this is where we get Sammy turn,
Hmm.
which is like you said, like it feels very sad for Sammy because you can see that she wants to talk and tell Peter something is wrong,
Yeah.
but she cannot move and like nothing's coming out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Um, so she when she kills him and then they finally find Sammy and Peter and she's like, "Oh no, she got him!"
Right.
Like her like the way that she's just like you. I can't tell at that point if she's genuinely bad at acting
Sammy or Abigail is.
as Abigail acting as Sammy,
Yeah.
or if she's just still fucking with them.
Yeah. And that's a Yeah, that's a good point. I think the other two, I think Peter and Joey don't buy it right
Uh,
away.
Not Peter. Yeah, why am
Or
I
not
blanking?
Frank.
Frank.
Frank. I think Frank and Joey don't. As soon as that happens,
Yeah.
they don't buy it. Which credit to the movie for not like making the characters more stupid than they
Well,
need to be.
Frank kind of buys it
Mm,
because it's not until Joey tells him like something's wrong, and he
yeah,
says, "What's wrong?" and she says, "We need to run."
yeah,
And she runs and she leaves him,
yeah.
and that's when Sammy turns around and like starts chasing them again. As she's chasing them, she's dancing
Right.
as Sammy. So like it's hard to always tell how much of it she is her just genuinely underestimating them, like at all.
Mm,
Um, because like when they have her locked up in the cell, she could have broken out at any minute, and that there's proof of that.
yeah, because she does.
Because she does. Um, and so then we are not sure what exactly it is that
The I like to play with my food line does a
yes
lot of heavy lifting for making the logic of this movie work.
work
And it works.
exactly it
It
worked
works, but like a lot of it hinges on, and a vampire would, right?
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, especially a vampire like this,
yeah,
where crosses don't work.
right?
There's no garlic issue here.
Yeah.
We know the stakes do kind of work, but it's also a matter of is it the stake or is it the fact that it's happening through the heart?
Hmm.
Who knows?
It's not even Dracula lore. Was it had to be through the heart?
It is through the heart,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be a wooden stake
Or
or
could it
can
be
it
a
be
sword? Yeah.
anything through the heart? I don't
Right.
know,
Yeah.
right? They never really specify in this, which is fine.
Yeah.
You don't really need to.
Yeah.
You just want something to poke through.
Right.
Um, but one of the things that I think they do a really good job in adding into this, which reminds me of something else, which I will touch on in a second, is what happens when they are exposed to the sun.
Hmm.
In every other vampire lore that I've seen, as soon as a vampire touches sun, they start to burn, they start to sizzle.
Yeah.
There's usually a couple of seconds of like,
Or sparkle.
oh, it hurts, or sparkle, right? Uh, in this movie,
Cool.
it's like a blast of TNT just
Yeah.
goes off in your
It
arm.
looks really cool.
The first time it happens, it genuinely catches you off guard
Yeah.
when Abigail's arm explodes, and it also shows that it's not like a whole body thing. It's whatever is exposed to the sunlight.
That's the part that
That's
explodes.
the part that explodes because her arm explodes and then it starts to grow back
Yeah.
in seconds,
Yeah.
and then she's got her arm back again the whole rest of the movie. Um, but then when Sammy's chasing them as a vampire puppet and she gets blasted with the reflected light from the silver plating
Waiting.
and she just goes full on boom,
Yeah.
that's another great like bit of oh, so
So
that's the extent of what
that's how it works.
that's how it works.
So there is, within a vampire, there is some sort of essence in their body. That, like there is a spot that
Well, I
once you
think it's
hit
the fact that it hit them like dead center in the torso.
exactly. But there's significance within the torso.
Yeah,
Like with you or I, even though like our appendage isn't the most significant, like if you cut off our appendage, like
we're
we're in
in
mortal danger.
for
But
sure.
like if you get them in the torso, then
Yeah,
that's when
you
you're
wanna make sure you aim for
yeah
that center, I think, which is smart. It's
yeah
good.
yeah
Gives them a solid weakness
bullseye.
to work for,
Yeah.
right? Um, we 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 are in reintroduced to Lambert, who's played by Giancarlo Esposito, who's always a treat.
Always a treat. I'm
He's
glad that he is basking in his series of like not B rolls, but he's very content to just take a lot of sub villain.
yeah, kind of like minor roles, but when he's on screen, like he's you take him seriously even if he's like a schlocky villain.
I'm excited for whenever he gets his big lead actor break in a movie.
Yeah, because
That's
I don't think he's had that. I will say, I know he's the main antagonist in the Far Cry 6 game.
yes.
I haven't played that.
And
I
yeah,
wonder what the extent of his role in that is.
his character in The Boys and
Yeah,
Mandalorian.
yeah, but he's never had like a full on like I
I am the
am the big
protagonist. Yeah,
bad.
he's never had like a Steve Carell moment in what was that movie?
Fox?
Not, I feel like it had Fox in the title. It was Steve Carell's first like serious role that
Ah,
he may have even won an Oscar for. I think there will be a day when Giancarlo Esposito
the
will
one about like
be.
the wrestlers or whatever.
I have no idea.
Anyway,
Yeah,
but he's pretty
Foxcatcher.
gotcha.
Yeah,
But he's good in this. Like he just wants to get revenge on Abigail for turning him into like a vampire,
yeah.
and they want to take them down. And this leads to our boy Dan Stevens to just say, you know what, fuck me up, daddy.
This is the one point in the movie. I love that. I love that piece of analysis. Looking me up, Daddy. This is the one point in the movie where I wish there was time added to the movie. I wish it was
A little
here.
more.
I wish it was here.
Yeah. I think this movie, while I am very happy with the hour 50 minute,
Yeah,
this movie could benefit from just a little bit here.
maybe.
Or maybe take away a little bit from the beginning
Maybe.
and move it to this end. Because yes, it does feel like,
It is little Giancarlo Ex Machina.
yeah,
Yeah,
there should have been like a bit more hint that he's there,
right.
maybe aiding them in some way to see if it's worth
We're
letting
making this
them into
move.
his plan or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that might feel a little jarry from a certain point of view is like Frank's turn on Joey,
Mm.
because it does seem like they are working along pretty well. She's helped him and he's trusted her to do her part. But as soon as as soon as this white boy gets some
He's
power,
gonna get
holy shit!
he takes it. So
By the way, his look
as a
when he
vampire.
stands up and he's just like covered in blood with his fucking goofy ass
Oh,
glasses,
so animalistic.
he looks so fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, he's the cartoon character in all the right sense of the world. So here's why I also felt this was jarring. I hope to make this a long running segment of the show.
Sure,
This segment is called "Is Thano a piece of shit or not?" So there's a
go on.
so part of where I was doubtful that he was going to be the piece of shit throughout the movie, and I was wondering if this movie would end with like Joey and Frank finding weird kinship with each other,
Sure.
not romance but kinship. There's a line where he's like, "Don't give me this sorry excuse of like, I need to do this so I can be like a mother to my son." He's like,
Uh-huh.
"Bitch, go do it now." And I turned to you, and I was like, "He's right."
Yeah,
And
he's very honest about like just because like you feel sorry now doesn't mean like it's okay for you to have been a shitty parent. Like take care of your shit.
this is where, and the way the the speed of his turn made me ask myself, is this the movie making his character more complicated, or does the movie think that Thano just has bad opinions? So, Javi, let me ask you: is Thano a piece of shit or not?
Um, I would say no. I mean, his turn is for sure abrupt.
Yes.
Whether or not
Abrupt,
that
but
is,
makes within the overall context of the character does make
oh, thousand
sense.
percent sense.
But there's another universe where that turn doesn't happen, and
Yeah,
like
and he uses that to go against.
right, and there's another universe I think where his character survives and doesn't get the villain role, and like it also makes sense within the arc of the character.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
No, I agree. I think it's a part of like, I mean, it's kind of like Donald might be a bit of an asshole,
Yeah,
but it's also like Donald's kind of justified
right,
in being an asshole,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Because I mean, he's not wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, you're a junkie. I'm sorry, it sucks, but you probably shouldn't abandon your kid. Now you're a junkie and an absent mother
And kidnapper.
and a kidnapper. All in jest, all in
Right.
jest. But I don't know. I just think he does a really good job at like just that switch from,
Mm,
because for like half the movie he's like a wounded deer almost. I'm
yeah.
not saying he's not dangerous.
Who did Coyote?
Sure, yeah,
Yeah,
he's weaselly like a coyote, so
right.
that makes sense, right? But like he's like limping along and like being the one who's falling behind because he can't keep up.
Well, these characters take a beating, by the
Dude,
way.
they get fucked up.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I think that as soon as he has that little bit of power,
yeah.
it
He
just
just
immediately
seizes
goes
it.
to his fucking head.
Right.
Because he does tell him right away. He does tell Lambert right away. He's like, "I'm not gonna be one of your fucking puppets."
which we haven't even mentioned. The red, white, and blue lights of freedom shaped animal in the room.
Go on.
He's a cop.
He's a cop.
Yeah.
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 And potentially dirty cop,
Definitely dirty cop.
right? Like
Definitely dirty.
there's an like a thing where I don't know what to say about that because he does say he's going against the big boss. I keep on forgetting his name,
I don't
like the
know his
head
name.
vampire guy.
Yeah.
Um, but he does say that like he did end up capturing the bad guys and he was gonna turn them in, try to bring down the bad guys' empire.
But wasn't only when like he didn't get like it was when he didn't get what he wanted from the bad guys. I can't
Not
remember.
necessarily. It was like he was enjoying the act of like hurting people through this like undercover cop
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
And then it's almost like he got too big for his britches and he tried to take down the big guy and maybe take over that power vacuum.
Mm.
So I'm not sure if it's necessarily like a dirty cop, like he was taking bribe money.
Mm.
It was like he was undercover, not necessarily even as a cop, but then when he saw that opportunity to pull the rug,
Yeah.
and then that's when he turned on him
Yeah.
and killed his, you know, witnesses.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. Uh, that the last act of this movie is a lot of fun. He's just him beating the shit out of Joey.
Yes.
Dude, he like stabs her with like a metal prod, just throws her like around in this library, which is a very cool visual setting.
It is a very cool visual setting. And it's these I think if there's potentially a flaw with this movie, and it's not a game breaking flaw, but because the movie is already so meticulous and intentional in how it, it establishes power dynamics,
Mhm.
the main human characters really do get like
Yeah. See, for a minute there, I thought they were going to maybe have Joey turn into a vampire
well,
through.
she almost has the opportunity. She does ask after the fight is done. She's like, "Am I gonna be a vampire now?" They're like, "Nah." It's like
Yeah, because
he's
your
gonna,
sire
yeah,
is
right. It's dead.
is dead.
Yeah,
Which again that expands to the vampire lore, which is good.
right.
Um, but they tease this idea that like Abigail needs help.
Yeah,
She's still a little weak because this dude did surprise her and numbed a hole through her neck and drink her blood.
yeah,
Didn't kill her, but did leave her weak. I wasn't sure if this was going to lead to then her saying like, "Hey, let me bite you, turn you vampire. We can take them out together."
right.
But they instead turned it into a you're gonna pretend to be his puppet,
Yeah,
which surprisingly enough does not work all the way through.
correct.
Um, Kind of feels like a bit of a wasted opportunity to have that you know fake out work a little bit better.
Yeah,
But it still leads to the very bombastic ending where they do team up.
right.
I like the line where she's like, the thing about being a vampire is
Practice.
it takes practice to learn the cool shit.
Well, that's the cool thing about the power creeping is like that's her advantage, but
Yeah,
then her disadvantage is that she's got the body of
of a
a
12-year-old
yeah,
kid. I
yeah,
like that joke where she's like, you're really good at acting like a little kid. She's like, thank you. I've had centuries to
right.
practice. Yeah, it shows that she's has that experience and that you can't just bite someone and magically know how to. You have to learn
The techniques.
the techniques. You
Yeah,
have to go through the paces,
yeah.
which is something that clearly that is Frank's flaw. He just wants shit done and doesn't always.
He just wants to eat. The most vampire of them all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that that's shown throughout the movie where like Joey's like, don't go in there guns blazing. It's
yeah,
not going to work.
yeah.
This garlic thing is not going to work. This stick to the heart thing, and what happens? They all get fucked.
Right.
So I think it plays well into the way he's taken out at the end. It's kind of by his own like ego and hubris.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun. I'm not really familiar with the bad guy or the bad guy, but the guy who plays the father.
I'm
Um,
not either.
I know he's the guy who plays Ozymandias
One of the
in Watchmen,
wait, the show or
the
the
movie.
movie? Okay,
But other than that, I don't really know a lot. Matthew Good?
okay, that's ironic. Um, he's confirmed that he's Dracula, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
he does say like I've been known by many
right.
names.
And then there's dragon insignia. Like
Yes.
that's the thing. If you walk into this movie blind, that's where that's I guess where I am kind of curious. I think somebody with at least a modicum of like this is because I'm really pretentious. Like if you're at least like got a bachelor's version of like well read, like you walk into this movie blind, you're like, oh, ancient house,
Something's up.
dragon insignia, oh, ancient painting with the girl looks like this girl, like fucking vampire. I think you could figure it out really
Yeah.
quickly.
And I think that's something that you could play with if you go into this not knowing that it's a vampire thing,
Yeah.
right? Like if you go into this with that without that marketing thing, right? Um, because like the way the insignia looks, like yes, it does look vaguely vampire, or
Yeah.
sorry, vaguely dragony-ish, but like if you're not paying attention, it
You
might
could
just
miss
look
it.
like a
Yeah.
weird long bird or something.
Yeah, you could
Who
miss it.
knows, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest clue initially is that painting that you see with like the bats or whatever the hell creatures
I don't even
flying.
remember the bats. Like,
There's
yeah,
something flying around, and it reminds me of the insignia that you see, like the shape of like almost like a wyvern
yeah,
flying around, something like that, and but not quite full on dragon.
yeah.
Um, and then having them both be there, like, oh, what the fuck is this? Is it like a style thing that they chose to do, or is this really that old?
Right.
Um, but then also like that painting looks old as
It
fuck.
does look old as fuck.
So
Yeah.
like, how long has he been here,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
So, question: the you could make a version of this movie where you never meet the dad. Like, the
Yeah.
movie could end before he comes.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I
Of that last couple beats of scene?
I think it sets up because like part of Abigail is that she does have that internal conflict too,
Right.
right? They do humanize her a bit by Joey telling her like, no, like you're just daddy's errand girl. Like you're
Yeah.
just his cleanup crew.
And then when she's shaking,
And
she talks about like, oh, my dad doesn't pay. He's not gonna come find me. He doesn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like you think it's playing, but like it's not.
Right.
And it really is like an insecurity of hers. So like I think having that resolution, it adds credence to like her letting Joey leave
Yeah.
at the end. Because like otherwise, what's the point in letting her leave? He could just eat her and then bing bang boom, you're done, no problem.
I think I loved it, and I think it adds a lot of interest and intrigue to the movie because if this is Dracula, then this is supposed to be like evil incarnate walking
Hmm.
in, and then like you see that dynamic, but you see that conflict between the daughter and the father play out.
That's a great scene where he's like, all right, let's eat this bitch,
Yeah,
and she's like, no, you are not eating her. She was here when you were not.
and it works.
And you can see like at first he's like, excuse me,
Yeah,
and then like there's a beat of like, fuck,
yeah,
like
and then he's like,
damn,
fine, and then he's like, all right, tick tick tick, gotta go.
almost dinner time.
And then she's like, all right, peace. And I think that it makes me like actually really hope there's not a sequel at all to this movie because I kind of just want that character and like all the mystery about him and his motivations. I just kind of want that preserved. Like I don't want to know anymore. Like
Kinda,
yeah,
but there's something so much fun about, I think, the character of Abigail.
yeah,
So like I wouldn't be opposed. I don't want them to go, this might sound bad. I don't want them to go, and this is the same case for Ready or Not too,
mm,
which they have said I think is coming out. I don't want them to go too John Wick with it,
mm,
where they go too deep
the lore.
into the lore. And I'm not saying that I don't like that in John Wick. I
Mm.
think in John Wick it's worked.
We have an affinity for John Wick on
We
this
do.
podcast.
We do. This is our
Hey man,
mandatory John
this
Wick.
episode,
You know what? And you know what's gonna fucking
yeah,
Add to this, one thing that I forgot to mention on my catch up, I got to see Hereditary in IMAX,
Yeah, you did.
and it was fucking beautiful.
Oh,
Anyway, um, my only concern is I do want a sequel. I'm not saying I don't,
right.
but I don't want them to go so far into backstories and like the intricacies of like the background of the world that it loses that mystique,
Yeah.
right? With John Wick, they have gone very deep into it. It's honestly gotten a little convoluted, but I think because everything else works so well, you're
Yes.
willing to like, fine, I buy this,
You watch John
whatever.
Wick for the adrenaline.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this you could still make it work. Just just focus on the story and why you want to make a sequel.
Right.
We don't need to know. If you're already alluded that he's Dracula, hey, guess what? We have hundreds of years of writing
Yep.
and
Many other adaptations.
millions of hours of adaptations. We don't need any background on this. If you want to give us background on Abigail,
Yeah.
fine. That's fine. I don't care. But like the dad, I don't think I need any more from him.
But then for Abigail, you're also tied to the timeline of the fact that this is a child actor. I mean, there's also like there's
Yes.
creative workarounds that I'm sure could exist,
Yeah.
but I mean, the big appeal of this is that it is a child, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could orphan this,
What does that mean?
the movie The Orphan.
I haven't seen it.
It's a fantastic movie. You know the bass twist in it, right?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
then I will not say anything
Okay.
until this could be a good
Episode.
one-two
Yeah.
punch for a Halloween recording.
Yeah.
But anyway, point is, you can do something with having like an adult actor playing a kid. So there's ways to do it. There's camera trickery,
Yeah.
Hobbit shit. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, forced perspective is a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's doable. Um, man, I had a really good time. And this really does make me kind of sad that not Lionsgate, uh, can't remember what the fucking production company is.
It's the one that has like the square thing, legendary.
No, it's not Legendary. It's Spyglass.
Okay.
Spyglass like shot themselves in the dick because like you have a talented group here with Radio Silence.
Yeah. Mhm.
You have a talented actress in Melissa Barrera, and to lose both in one fell swoop,
Yeah.
A, for forcing Scream 7 into production so early,
Right.
just to get hit with a fucking strike and delay it anyway,
Yeah.
and to shit can your lead actress, whose entire backstory is like the driving force behind the new sequel movies.
Right. Is this all because of Palestine?
All because of Palestine.
Damn.
Not the directors. The directors left because they had this movie to make,
Hmm.
something else, and Spyglass did not want to wait for them to clear the schedule.
Mm.
They were like, "We want this shit out by next year,"
Damn.
and they were like, "I mean, we would
Greedy.
love to, but
Greedy like a vampire.
greedy like the vampires."
Mhm.
And it just this shows that like they're not a one hit wonder.
Yeah.
They are consistently putting out good work, and it sucks that they don't get to finish their story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fucking depressing.
Depressing indeed.
Anything else that you would like to add to this?
If I if I was only able if I was able to miss if I had to miss out on so many movies this month, I'm very glad that this is the one
The one that you
that
saw?
I saw. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I will take a very good fun movie
Yeah.
over a very good scary movie. Because
Mm.
like scares are scares,
Scares are scary.
but like there's something so much fun or something so much better about something that you just like have fun that you're like, I want to watch that again.
Yeah.
And I think that's worth a lot more to me. Um, so
It's
good
not about the
time.
size of the trope.
It's
It's
not about
about
the
how
size of the
you
trophy, it's how you use it.
using it. Yep.
That's
Put that shit on
look
the
look forward look forward to that in the shirt.
yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us on our recap of what we've been up to. catching our little review of Abigail. We'll be back at some point. I don't know what we can make work soon.
We'll find something.
We are busy, busy, busy people.
Thano the coach and
Thano the coach.
this coming week.
And this coming week, we
Yeah,
we have wedding stuff coming up.
that way. Coming up.
So we'll figure something out. Maybe I'll record something with Kate.
There you go.
She's been wanting me to record something for Twilight, and I'm
Very
like,
nice.
I don't think so. We'll see.
I've just seen. Maybe I've seen more than just the first one.
They are fun movies to make fun of.
I've only read the first one.
You've actually read Twilight.
I read the first Twilight. I had a philosophy like it was in the peak. It's cool for men to hate Twilight days,
I
right?
see.
But I had a philosophy like if I'm gonna hate something, then I should read it, and it was bad.
It was
It
bad.
was
I hate Twilight because I've actually seen all the movies.
yeah, they're not
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching us. Remember to share with your friends. We will be back. Until next time, he has been Thano.
good. He has been Javier.
This has been the Cine-Scoots movie show. Bye.
Bye.